Welcome back. One of the great days in Australasian racing, maybe world racing, is the Cox Plate. Yesterday, it didn't disappoint anybody who's a purist in racing because a very, very fine horse won the Cox Plate. Maybe not the horse that a lot of Australians were hoping for, Shaftesbury Avenue or Superimposed, but for the O'Sullivan family, the most famous family in New Zealand racing, it was just deserved. 3 times they've been second in the Cox Plate. They've been runners-up in Melbourne Cups. And yesterday, not only did they win their first race at Moonee Valley, they won 2 of them. They were both big races, and one of them was the Cox Plate. Dave O'Sullivan joins Keith and myself this morning. Good morning, Keith.
Oh, good morning, Bruce. The Cox Plate, of course, they bill as a race where legends are made. They're not made before the race, and when we look back on this one, and the deeds to come, I think, from Surfers Paradise, we'll realise that this was truly one of the legends of the Cox Plate.
Dave, congratulations. A tremendous result. You must have had a wonderful day yesterday because you've come so close in this great race in the past.
Yes, we've had 3 seconds and 3 misses in it, Bruce, but we've been trying over a period of approximately 12 years, so it was nice to break through at long last.
Had the race been run 6 months ago and your horse had been a 4-year-old, he would have been one of the favourites because he came to Australia with an enormous reputation. He won the Rosehill Guineas, was over the top when he was beaten in the Derby, but I guess that the reason he was 14-1 yesterday was that his form in New Zealand looked rather ordinary this time in.
Yeah, he's been very unlucky over home this year. The tracks have been very heavy, Bruce, and it's been hard to gauge a line on them to bring him over here, but we were happy with him in himself, so we had to take the punt and bring him over.
You said on the day that he ran unplaced, the day the Caulfield Stakes was on, that he should have been at Caulfield and not in New Zealand. You take that back now?
I'm quite happy the way it is, yeah.
Bruce, there's amazing scenes after the race. Dave, of course, as a trainer, was swamped by the media. So too was his son Lance when he stepped off the scales. And they didn't really get to speak to each other. Someone said to Lance, what did your dad have to say? He said he just gave me a wink and I knew he was happy.
That was terrific. Well, Keith, there were a lot of rumours around the course yesterday. I mean, you pulled my coat and told me that maybe Shaftesbury Avenue wasn't the good thing we thought he was. What did you think of his performance?
Well, Darren Goucher, who rode him, said the near fall, and that's exactly what it was, going out of the straight the first time, cost him any chance. It may have cost him a win. But I thought that Shaftesbury skidded and slipped on the track all the way. He was never happy, really, and I thought he was fairly disappointing. And both him and the one I selected, Rough Habit from New Zealand, were very disappointing, and I know a film crew from Channel 12 in Tokyo left Moonee Valley very dismally last night.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, Dave. Dave, of course, has trained a winner of the Japan Cup in Horlicks. We've got a situation now where Rough Habit and Shaftesbury Avenue are representing Australasia. Neither of them could run in the first 5 in the Cox Plate yesterday. It's a rather almost embarrassing situation for us.
Yeah, you'd like to see the horses right up to form, you know, to go over and take on those horses. You are taking on the world's best, and they run very, very fast. It's a very testing track and a very hard 1.5 miles.
Tell us one thing about Rough Habit. Is he just a wet track champion? You've seen a lot more of him in New Zealand. He can't win in Melbourne.
I would say that John would have to be disappointed with his 2 performances here. I thought that track may have suited him a bit yesterday because his lead-up races before he left home, he just looked dynamic. I really did think he'd come over this year and be the horse to be...
Actually, on that very point, Dave, the New Zealanders said the difference back home between your horse, Surfers Paradise, and Rough Habit was like chalk and cheese. They were all in the Rough Habit camp yesterday.
I'd have to agree with them, the way things looked just prior to coming. We met Rough Habit over 1,400 metres. He beat us. He got a lovely run. We got an unfortunate run that we were up and pulling hard, and the horse raced very fresh and a little bit upside down. But I couldn't take it away from Rough Habit. He just won with ridiculous ease, and then he went out and he beat a top field over 2,000 metres a couple of weeks later, and he just made them look third rate. I mean, you had to be very happy with him coming over.
Well, I guess that was New Zealand form, and he hasn't proved it in Melbourne. Now, the things to watch in the Cox Plate. Shaftesbury Avenue on the first turn, he almost falls. The pressure the jockeys put on him from the 800 on, did they go too early? Jockeys, I mean, Citizen and particularly Rough Habit and Superimpose even, were exposed, and this wonderful ride by Lance O'Sullivan, he just sits and sits and sits. Let's go to the Cox Plate.
They're off. Great start too in the Cox Plate, and down on the inside, Stylish Century the first to jump out from Kinjatide, ready to explode her. And towards the outside, Shortall is going very fast out there, as so is Shaftesbury Avenue, coming down towards the judges' box, and deeper on the track is Stargazer. Past the judges' box, a lap to go, and Shortall goes to the front by length in advance of Stylish Century. There followed by Kinjatide, there was crowding there. Royal Creation interfered with, and Shaftesbury Avenue got a slight check, and the field starts to string out down the side at the 1600. Shortall about 3 lengths to Stylish Century, a length and a half 1.5 to Kinjite on the inside of Stargazer. 4 lengths further back is Shaftesbury Avenue, a length into Rough Habit, moving up on the outside. And they were being closely followed then by Royal Creation, ready to explode. A length further back is Prince Illyria. He's over on the outside there, and he was followed by Dr. Grace. A length to Citizen, followed by Surfers Paradise, who's third last. Superimpose is second last, and Lord Revenue last of all, about 20 lengths off the lead. Around the back, just over 1,000 to go. And the leader, Chortle, 2.5 lengths to Stylish Century, 2 lengths away, Stargazer. Kinjite's fourth. In behind them, Shaftesbury Avenue, a length and a half to Rough Habit. 2 lengths to Royal Creation on the outside of Ready to Explode. A length to Citizen, being followed by Prince Illyria. Dr. Grace in behind them. Citizen is dropping back a little bit on the outside, and Superimpose is starting to go around them next. A length and a half to Surfers Paradise, second last, and Lord Revenue last of all. Down the school side, 650 to go, and Stylish Century has taken the lead. Here come the challengers. Shaftesbury Avenue taking off on the outside and winding his run, and so is Stargazer. Rough Habit moving up just behind them. Citizen into the picture with a good run. Ready to Explode is back behind them, and they're followed by Dr. Grace up towards the home turn. Rough Habit has dashed to the front now on the Cox Plate, rounding the turn. Rough Habit the leader, Citizen in hot pursuit. They're followed by Shaftesbury Avenue under pressure. Superimpose is finishing on well. Surfers Paradise on the outside as they straighten up. Rough Habit headed by Citizen. 200 metres left to go. Citizen hit the front. Here comes Superimpose down the outside with a rattling run. And Surfers Paradise is deeper on the track. Surfers Paradise is swamping them. The New Zealander. Surfers Paradise roaring clear. Surfers Paradise has won. Superimpose second. Citizen third. Ready to Explode. Close up Prince Illyria. Royal Creation. They're followed by Dr. Grace. Rough Habit.
And Surfers Paradise winning despite the fact that his jockey Lance O'Sullivan went into the race with an injured wrist. And Dave, is that your greatest moment in racing when that horse hit the line?
With the Japan Cup, I think, yes, Bruce.
They're pretty much on a par. Tell us, where does Surfers Paradise go from here?
Well, if he does well during the week, he'll run on the McKinnon, then he'll go home, and we'll just have to reorganise him from there, just work out what we will do with him.
Dave, I think 7 premierships in New Zealand for you.
Yes, we have.
You've had all these great horses, but Melbourne has been a hoodoo for you. I think you were a Melbourne maiden until Horlicks won last year, weren't you?
I think I was the punter's quinella king, you know. I could just quinella these races and couldn't win one.
Kept running second. Well, yesterday the Moonee Valley Cup, which last year was a terrific guide to the Melbourne Cup because the horse that won the Moonee Valley Cup, won the Melbourne Cup, was run. An improved performance by the imported Al Mahib. Let's have a look at the race and see if we can spot maybe a chance or two in the Melbourne Cup. We pick it up with a lap to go in the Moonee Valley Cup.
Going into the final lap, and Gueldo is the pilot, led towards the 1650 by a length and a half in advance here of Maharaja. 1 length away, moving away as they head down the side. They're followed by the Hippogriff, who's nicely positioned. He's over on the inside of Ecliptic, and just in behind them came El Mahib. Rashik the centre, still out 3 deep off the track, Flying Luskin as they come down the side. A length and a half, Sir Vendor on the outside of Nairizi. They're followed by Grooming, a length and a half, Just a Dancer, Saving Ground to the inside with Coal Diesel. And the next to last going down the side, they're strapping, and Balance of Power has dropped out to last of all. 1,250 metres left to go, and Gueldo is the leader by a length. Moving away, has gone up to be second. 2 lengths further back is Maharaja, 2.5 lengths Ecliptic on the outside of the Hippogriff, Flying Luskin. They were being followed next by El Mahib, a length and a half to Rashik. 2 lengths further away is Sir Vendor. Nairizi's on the inside, a length and a half to Grooming, a long gap to Just a Dancer, who's being hard ridden at that point. And they were followed by Coal Diesel, and dropping out of it very sharply there is Strapping, and Balance of Power's a long way back. Gueldo is the leader up past the 800, about a length to moving away. Maharaja starting to run on, 2 lengths away. Ecliptic, Flying Luskin. The Hippogriff still there on the inside, followed by El Mahib, and Sir Vendor commencing a mover. And right around the outside, Grooming is running on pretty well, followed by Rashik, and Nairizi is under the whip as they race up with 500 metres left to go. Moving away takes the lead, tackled by Maharaja, and Ecliptic on the outside behind them. The Hippogriff putting himself in the picture. Flying Luskin at the head of the others, followed by Grooming, and then Rashik as they make the home turn. Moving away, tackled by Maharaja. On the outside, the Hippogriff is joining in. So is El Mahib, the import, with a big run as they straighten up. 200 to go. Moving away, being tackled by El Mahib down the outside. The Hippogriff, and Nairizi finishing very well. El Mahib takes the lead with 100 to go. Rashik is down the outside. The Hippogriff. El Mahib is the leader, close to home. El Mahib just in front. El Mahib from the Hippogriff, and tight for third. Maybe Rashik just ahead of Nairizi.
And he survived a couple of protests there, El Mahib. Any idea of whether he'd be re-handicapped?
I doubt it. Last year's winner wasn't Bruce, and he does have 56.5, and his form hasn't warranted that weight in the lead-up races until yesterday, which was, I might add, a massive form reversal on his failure when favoured in a small field in Adelaide.
Yeah, Labor Day Cup, I think he ran 9 to 4 and ran 4th in a field of about 7. But these horses, Savage Toss was the same last year. They take a while to strike it to the imported horses, but when they do, they can put it together. And I wouldn't completely rule him out. It was a pretty good win, I thought.
I thought the top weight Justed Answer ran a nice race in the Moonee Valley Cup too. Of the beaten brigade, he was the one that caught my eye.
Yes, he couldn't go when they sprinted at about the 1,000. We're talking with Dave O'Sullivan, the trainer of Surfers Paradise, who's had a tremendous run here in Australia. Dave's also got a couple of Melbourne Cup fancies. One of them was shown at Geelong on Wednesday, Diego. Another one, Schnaps, will run in the Werribee Cup. Diego's interesting, Dave. I remember when he won the South Australian Derby, we all thought that this might be a Melbourne Cup horse that year. What's happened to him in the last couple of years?
Well, I didn't have any intention of bringing him back as a 4-year-old, Bruce. I thought he was a little bit immature. Last year, he ran in the Auckland Cup last year, and he came home very good, run a good 5th in the Cup. But he raced erratically last year, and he was a difficult horse to train. He was pulling on the track, and he did a lot of things wrong. I turned him out at the end of January and gave him 2 months spell, and he's actually been in work since the 1st of April. So he's done a lot of work, and he's had about 7 runs, and he's been a nice horse to train this year. He's done everything really good, so I'm very happy with him.
And tell us about Snaps. What can we expect from her at Werribee?
Well, Bruce, she's been, she's a little bit difficult to sort of just work her out. She looked a very, very outstanding horse on the way up, and then she cracked a cannon bone, and she was off the scene for a long, long time, and now she's on the sort of comeback trail, and some of them come back, some of them don't. We've got our fingers crossed on her.
Dave, I think your stable's hot and I'm taking notes. What about Mr. Tiz?
Well, Mr. Tiz, I must admit, he's my favourite. He's a great old horse, and he's done amazing things. He's won 7 Group 1s, and undoubtedly, I think the best sprinter we've ever seen in New Zealand, in my time anyway.
So what's his race here?
He's going to run in the Gadsden years.
Right.
On Derby Day, but he's looking $1 million.
Gee, it's a good rap, isn't it?
Yeah.
The best horse, the best sprinter New Zealand's had, and he's in your time. And Dave, you've been around for a little while.
Yeah, a little while.
Well, he'll take on you, Clays, and Vane Sovereign, who was very impressive. Just very briefly, Let's Elope Castletown from a Melbourne Cup point of view. They're both ex-New Zealand Let's Elope. Would you think she'd get the 2 miles from what you've seen?
I trained Let's Elope in New Zealand, and she had about 5 or 6 runs from my stable and won a couple. She's made remarkable steps, I think, but most of the Nazapurs have done it as 4-year-olds, and they're coming up and looking really good. If you said which was the old Castletown's a tough old grinder, that he's proven that he can get the 2 miles. The way that mare won the Caulfield Cup, you'd have to say she's going to keep going, I think.
Well, Keith's been tipping all year on this program. He has a different tip every week, and he's going for Castletown at the moment. Yeah. Let's have a look at the market, Dave. We'll see who's favourite. Well, Let's Elope and Shiver's Revenge at 7-1, Castletown and Diego at 8-1, and Lord Revenue, who probably didn't lose anything yesterday in the Cox Play. And Superimpose, well, he's the most interesting runner there. We just don't know whether he... You wouldn't think, would you? But he was second a couple of years ago, and we might discuss him after this break. We'll be back because there's a lot more racing to go, and we're going to have a look at Diego's run, by the way, in the Geelong Cup. Welcome back to Sportsworld. Our special racing guest today is Dave O'Sullivan, the man who trained Surfers Paradise and Fire Commander to victories yesterday. And Keith's with us, as always. Keith, the Moir Stakes, Joanne has won just once in Victoria, has a tremendous record in New South Wales, but I thought she was a trifle unlucky yesterday. Gallipoli Prince just laid on her on the home turn, and With Me pinched a break.
Yes, she missed by that much, didn't she, Bruce? And With Me wearing blinkers for the first time. She's a high-quality mare. 2 good mares fought out the finish. There was nothing between them at the finish, but you're right, Joanne was a shade unlucky.
OK, let's go to the Moir Stakes. Joanne draws barrier 1. With Me comes out flying.
Now they're racing. And Paklani beat them out towards the outside from Street Ruffian. Redelver away quickly With Me showing speeder. And Gallipoli Prince and Joanne is second last and settling down, but driving through along the inside. With Me goes to the front from Gallipoli Prince at the 800er. They show out by length to Paklani. Umatilla on the outside. Hula Grey a length and a half. Joanne making ground on the inside. And they were being followed closely then over on the outside by a wraparound Pug for Me. Redelver followed by So Gay Paris and Street Ruffian. Down the side 500 to go, and With Me bar half length. Gallipoli Prince a length further away. Hula Grey. Joanne moving up on the insiders now, 4th, followed by Umatilla, Paklani, wrap around as they make the home turner. A bit further back, Pug for Me, right off the track, Redelver, Street Ruffian, So Gay Paris, but With Me is the leader. Got away about 2.5 lengths, Joanne in second place, followed by Gallipoli Princess. They straighten up and then wrap around. With Me is the leader. Joanne is finishing very fast down the outside. With Me being tackled by Joanne, who's flying home on the outside. With Me still in front. They reach the line. With Me and Joanne, nearly a dead heat. Nearly a dead heat between With Me and Joanne. Third wrap around from Street Ruffian. They're followed next home by So Gay Paris.
The fastest horses in Australia are mares, because they ran 1, 2, 3 yesterday with me. A second Moir Stakes. She's also won at Oakley. Keith, Joanne's going for the Linlithgow on the Thursday during the carnival, 1400 at Flemington.
Yes, and surprisingly, Bruce, in my opinion, the 1400 at Flemington is not as tough as the 1200. The pressure's on all the way in at 1200, and a mare that has any doubt, or any sprinter that has a doubt at the 1400, can do it at Flemington. It just seems to be the pattern of racing.
The big turn, isn't it? And if you can take a position, you'd imagine she'd sit behind Redelva or somebody like that, and she'll be very hard to beat. Dave, Fire Commander, he won the Waterford Crystal yesterday. It's the first time we'd had a look at him. You were going to bring him to Sydney in the autumn. He was favourite for the Doncaster, then didn't come. He looks a very good horse. He looks like he's got Honda Stakes written all over him on the final day of the carnival. Yeah,
well, that was the race that we really had in mind with him a long time ago. It was unfortunate we couldn't take him to Sydney last year, but he just didn't stand up to the end of his program that year, and he sort of started to train off, so we decided to pull the pin on him, which I'm very pleased we did.
There's a saying, I don't know whether it's peculiar to Australia, whinge and win, and the O'Sullivan clan were whinging about the weight of your horse before his win at Moonee Valley yesterday, Dave.
Yeah, we were most probably a little bit disappointed, Keith, but you know, that's the name of the game. We always want to get in as light as we can wherever we go, but I just felt that that horse, with the little bit of money that he had earned in comparison with the others, was not treated the best. But as with all case in racing, Keith, the handicapper has the last say anyway, so you can't defeat
Bruce,
him.
the other issue for debate yesterday was Lance O'Sullivan's tactics in getting out off the fence. It was generally thought around the course that Lance might have a little extended holiday in Australia, but the stewards saw it differently, that the outside horse contributed to it, and both jocks were reprimanded, but it wasn't even a severe rap over the knuckles.
And the other thing that, Keith, was interesting too was just how close Brunch Time got on the line, because when the race was run, it did appear that Fire Commander had definitely won.
Developed print.
Second photo, and just getting there. Okay, well, Keith's pointed out the big incident in this race. Fire Commander's bolting on the home turn. He's behind the leaders. He's got to get out, and he does. Let's go to the Waterford Crystal.
As they come up towards the home turn, High Waters has taken a slight lead. Thalera on the outsider. They're followed by Bonded, losing ground. Fire Commander in behind them, looking for a runner. Deeper on the track, Brunch Time, Postal Extonic running on. Many chances at the top of the straight. Thalera's hit the front now, with High Waters getting a run on the inside, and Fire Commander trying to bullock his way out. Here he comes now, and down the outside, Brunch Time. High Waters tackled by Fire Commander, and Brunch Time, and over on the outside, Chevelle Cavalier, but Fire Commander hit the front. Fire Commander's just one, I think, from Brunch Time. Tight for third. It's Gamine which flew home with Chevelle Cavalier, followed by High Waters, and back behind them, Deposition.
Well, Gamine was a terrific run. Watch for her in the Eclipse, and Chevelle Cavalier ran very well because he was wide. I think the thing you've got to remember with Fire Commander too, Keith, is that when you get turned side on, you've got 57 under your bat, it's pretty hard to accelerate. He's a quality horse, isn't he?
Will he be even better at Flemington, Dave?
I think Flemington would suit him, Keith. He went and worked there in the Breakfast of the Stars last Tuesday, and Paul rode him, and he said he was very, very steery. And Lance said himself, even when he did get out, he just couldn't get him balanced up. That's why you may notice he put the stick away with the fairway to go. He only hit him a couple. He was too busy trying to keep him balanced up.
Yeah, the horse pricked his ears and didn't appear at home, and he's just won. He goes for the Honda Stakes. That's on the last day of the carnival. The last 2 years, it's been won by a horse, or better loosen up 2 years ago in Shaftesbury Avenue last year. It's not a bad race, is it?
It's a hard act to follow, isn't it?
They've gone on a little bit since then, haven't they, those two horses? But he's going to be one of the favourites, and Keith, obviously one of the horses to beat. It's always a highlight.
He looked a quality horse. Must be a wonderful, I was just thinking about your setup, Dave, with your son Paul as a co-trainer, and your other son Lance as the rider. It's all in the family, isn't it?
Well, it does. Yeah, it is all in the family. It's a good situation to be in, and I can send these horses over here, and Paul can come over with them, and he's got quite a good staff with him, very good staff with him this time too, and but he's working pretty hard over here, I tell you.
Differences of opinion, and if you do, does that stay in the family?
No, we don't. I think we discuss it. It's never his opinion or my opinion. I think it's something that we discuss and work out between us, and we bring Lance into it too. It's always nice to have your rider there that you can discuss things with him at any time, which is very handy.
Is it a big betting stable in New Zealand?
Well, no, I'm a non-better myself, Bruce. No, there are not many big betting stables in New Zealand, I would have to say that.
Well, without bookmakers, it makes it harder sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you hear some guys say, well, he wants to have a punt. When you work it down what the punt is, it's really not a great big bet at all. But no, there's not a lot in New Zealand.
Dave, from what you said this morning and from knowing you in the past, it's obvious to me that the key to your success is patience. Here you've got a horse like Surface Paradise. He's just won the Cox Plate. He's only going to have one more run, the McKinnon Stakes. You ruled out the Japan Cup. You don't push your horses to limits that they may not achieve.
Well, I think a good example of that really is Mr. Tiz. He's a 7-year-old and most probably he looks most probably as good as he's ever looked. And the horse is lovely and sound. He's never been pushed. I think he's only had about 33 runs in his life, 34.
His favourite subject, Mr. Tiz, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, that Gadsden, I can't wait for that to be run next week, Keith. Let's go to the BMW Vars yesterday. This is a lead-up to the Victoria Derby. This horse was very impressive and he's now the favourite. His name's Naturalism.
700 metres left to go, and Fancy Bird moving up on the outside to tackle Green Fever. A length to Baron Samedi. They're followed by Netches. In behind them, Naturalism being called upon for an effort. He's starting to respond. Over on his outside is Greg, and they're followed then by Shushtar, and Turgeman is under pressure. Glorious Days a long way back, followed by Mac Robert, and tailed off Banya Boy. Looks like being pulled out of the race. Coming up towards the home turn, Green Fever headed now by Fancy Bird. They've kicked away. 2 lengths away, running on now Naturalism. And then came Shushtar, Baron Samedi back behind them, followed by Mac Robert, who's made a fast run, and Turgeman as they straighten up. Here comes Naturalism on the outside. He's putting in his run. He's quickly hit the front. Halfway down the straight, the favourite's kicked clear. Naturalism. It's all over. He's racing home to a comfortable victory, Naturalism. He'll win it very easily. Green Fever battling on well, and Green Fever will get second just ahead of Mac Robert. Then Turgeman, followed by Fancy Bird, and back behind them came Shushtar.
Well, Revenue won that race and went on to win the Derby a few years ago. Let's have a look at the Derby market. Naturalism is favourite at 5-2. This race runs Saturday. Star of the Realm and Kinjite at 4s. Beowulf, who won the Geelong Derby trial during the week and Ready to Explode. He ran pretty well yesterday. And Mac Robert getting home at 10-1. You're just telling us, Dave, that you trained Naturalism's mother, the dam.
Yes, mare called Zephyr Suba, and she by Zephyr Bay, a lovely mare, and she won quite a few very good races. So he would get a little bit of speed from her, I'd imagine. And
he looks like he can stay. Speaking of staying, let's go to the Geelong Cup on Wednesday. This horse, Newbury Stars, made quite an impact in Australia. He won at Caulfield first up. Let's Elope was unplaced in that race.
But watch for Diego, Bruce. He's last at the 400 metres. He's got a black cap and some aqua and green colours. And guess who he's trained by?
Yes, Dave O'Sullivan. And gee, this is some run. Let's go to the Geelong Cup on Wednesday.
Newbury Prince a half to centre off the fence, a length away off the record moods. Then comes Carawin, hard-ridden Lord Zamazan and Delmar. Around the outside, Imperial Salute, Flying Luskin getting up on the fence. Then comes Best Endeavours, and back with it Pontiac Lass. And at the head of the others, Alpha Bell, Gypsy Invader as they corner. Newbury Star leads around the turn. Set row goes deep. Carawin wider out and off the record, getting through in the centre. Then Moods, Flying Luskin, followed by Rural Prince, Imperial Salute at the 200, and still Newbury Star in front. Cara winning off the record, clear of Rural Prince, and then Diego from a mile back. Newbury Star the leader. Newbury Star, Carawin trying to get him and off the record. Newbury Star in front. Newbury Star wins the cup by a long neck. To Carawin, Diego. What a Melbourne Cup trial that was.
Yeah, Brian Blackmore saying, Dave, what a Melbourne Cup trial. You took Corrie May there in 1985. She won the Geelong Cup. She got beaten that much by What a Nuisance.
Yeah.
You must regard that race as a good stamping ground for Flemington.
Well, it's a good, yes, I think it is. It's a nice big roomy track, and that horse has had a very good hit out on that day, I think.
Where does he run next?
I think he goes straight into the Cup from here, Bruce. We're pretty happy with his
Really?
condition.
I mean, every Cup winner practically runs on the Saturday before the Tuesday.
Yeah, well, we could say Corrie May got beaten a short nose by my good mate John Maher, I might add, and so she's done everything but win. And this horse, I just feel myself that Paul and I have discussed it, and we think we'll leave him alone and we'll go straight in the Cup.
25 lengths behind the leader and eventual winner at the 400 metres, Dave. Was that a Melbourne Cup winning gallop?
It really looked a top run for the Cup. What did you think of it yourself, Keith?
Well, it was the best one I've seen all spring, Dave.
Well, Dave, I'm not going to argue with you. I wish I could see him on Saturday in the Dalgety, but he's been in work since April the 1st. I reckon he's probably had enough. Let's have a look at the market. We've seen the market. He's 8-1, Diego. He's second favourite behind Let's Elope and Shiver's Revenge at 7-1. Next Sunday, Keith will be back. We'll have a number of guests. We'll have a big preview of the Melbourne Cup, and we had Bart Cummings last year, and he tipped us Kingston Rule, so I reckon we've had a few tips today, Keith. I reckon Dave's tipped more today than I've tipped in 6 months.
Oh, that's impossible, but there's one in capital letters, Mr. Tiz.
Oh, yeah, Gadsden.
I've still got to be right yet, you know.
No Quinellas anymore for you, Dave. You've broken your maiden at Moonee Valley yesterday. We'll take a break. Kim rejoins us, and she's going to give us what's been happening right around the world and here in Australia.